where you're planted. Homesteading Small Spaces with Holly and Mel. I am Holly.
Hi, I'm Mel.
There's Mel. And what we're doing right now is just a little conversation about our individual spaces that we use for gardening and chicken raising, some other animals. You'll hear all about it. And we're doing this now because of the time that it is. It is mid-April 2020, right in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we thought we'd share a little bit about what we do, just because we like our environment, we like our planet Earth, and we want to do as much as we can in our own little ways to save it. Like I said, I'm Holly. I'm a part-time music educator, musician, and multi-hobbyist. Mostly sewing as that extra hobby. I grew up in the suburbs of Orange County, and now I live in rural Humboldt County, although in a suburban-type neighborhood. I don't have a big family history of farming, but I know my grandpa was a farmer. But my parents were definitely not into that. I think the only thing we grew were tomatoes on the side of the house, and maybe there was a lemon tree in the front. And Mel, who are you?
Who am I? Hello. I started farming gardening really with earnest in 2011 when my husband and I moved into a 1/4 acre lot in a suburban neighborhood. And really then we expanded, and we now live on a 40-acre goat farm. My husband is a goat farmer. And so we've grown into this space and are able to do a little bit more. And so I really have a wide range of experience, from trying to grow lettuce in an apartment setting to doing a little bit more on a 1/4 acre lot in town, and then now expanding that even more into a little bit larger of a space. So I grew up similar to Holly, in a suburb, and we were surrounded by ag land. It was in Northern California, but we didn't have any real access to a garden space or any of that when I was growing up. So, and my parents weren't into having pets. They just worked too much. Then when I was in college, I started studying a lot about environmental and social justice issues. And I just was left feeling kind of hopeless about the state of our world and our human community. And I basically just realized that, industrial agriculture, particularly the global industrial agricultural complex, is hugely problematic for many reasons, including costs to human health and safety through pesticide toxicity, water pollution, the junk food, antibiotic resistance, right? The list goes on. And then there's, of course, just that industrial complex also causes problems to our environment, to farmland. And it also has pretty serious social and economic impacts to small local businesses, right? If we can buy tomatoes at 99 cents a pound from Mexico, how is a local farmer going to compete at $2 a pound for tomatoes or whatever it is? So, for those reasons, I became really interested in trying to grow as much food as I could for myself and my family, and have been pretty successful. We haven't reached subsistence by any means, but that's the goal for me. So that's what I'm doing here. That's who I am. It's a little bit about what I do. And, yeah.
I will say, I think compared to you, Mel, I am definitely a dabbler in gardening and animal raising, but I have been able to eat my own lettuce, and the little bits that I can do make me feel like I'm doing at least a little bit.
There's a lot to be said about just growing one thing or just doing what you can in your small space that in whatever space you have. Like I said, you can, even if you're just buying that one head of lettuce from your local farmer, that is going to contribute so much more to your local economy and your health and well-being than buying that head of lettuce, from outside the country or outside your state or local community. So.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
Great.
No, that's okay. So, Holly, talk a little bit about what you got going on in your suburban homestead.
So I have a small 2-bedroom house with a nice big front yard that I mostly plant perennial ornamental plants growing up there. That's where I started. And then when we cleared out the backyard, which is actually pretty spacious, definitely not a quarter of an acre or anything, but a lot of space. So we have enough space for chicken run and chicken coops. We have a small greenhouse. I have a few fenced off areas where there are a handful of, say, 4x4 planting beds, or maybe a 4x8 planting bed here and there. A handful, 8 planting beds or 10 planting beds. Not a lot, but enough to do some squash, some radishes, some carrots, lots of lettuce. And I do a few Roma tomatoes in the greenhouse, and I just get my hands dirty. And then we have about 20 chickens for laying. And then we raise, in the summer, we do a few batches of meat birds, about 12 or so birds at a time that we can then put in the freezer for the year. So we don't do a lot, but we do enough that I get to stay busy in the garden and do what I love. What's your setup looking like, Mel?
Yeah, I've got, like I said before, I live on a 40-acre goat farm, but we've only got about 3/4 of an acre of that to work ourselves. That's where our home is and where we keep all of our vegetables and animals and those kinds of things. We have I'll just talk about the vegetable space first, and then I'll talk about our animals. We've got a good-sized greenhouse. It's about 20 feet by 15 feet or so. And then I've got a few row crop garden areas. They're pretty small for a row crop garden area. 30 feet by 100 feet is one of them. And the other one is quite a bit smaller. And then I've got raised garden beds. And I think that's it for a vegetable garden. We also just started some mushroom logs this year, so I've got a little stack of those going. And then for animals, we've got laying chickens in a large chicken run. And we've got meat birds like Holly does. And I've got rabbits. Our rabbit just had babies, so that's pretty fun. We raise the rabbits for meat. And we also have 2 goats in a small goat pasture. And those goats are going to be milking goats. So that's what we've got going on.
I'll say that, Mel, a lot of what I do is based on what I've seen you do in the past. And I have to say that in addition to just loving being in the garden, you are also a big inspiration on what I choose to do in my garden.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's mid-April right now. So what are we doing in the garden? Well, I got some starts in the ground, and most of my starts, I start myself from seeds in little pots. Seeds are so inexpensive that I don't feel like I'm wasting money if my starts don't really come out that well. And when I buy starts at the store and they don't come out really well, I get really bummed and that I'm throwing money away. So that's one reason why I like doing seeds. But I'll start some in pots. Some squash got started, and that looks really good. I also start some seeds in the ground, or what we call direct sowing. There's some vocabulary for us. We're going to have a test later, so I hope we're taking notes. And that's more like beans and lettuce and broccoli. I'm doing some direct sowing too, and like right about now. I feel like if I put I feel like if I put seeds in the ground now and starts in the ground now at this time of year, they're really gonna just bust up and grow really fast, and that helps them stay healthy. That helps them repel pests, or at least not be bothered so much by pests. I'm also building some new garden bed spaces. I feel like every year I add a little bit more garden space, and that just means more weeding, which again is also something I'm going to be doing right about now, because as everything else is growing fast, so are the weeds. So you have to stay on top of those. And as much mulch as I use, I still need to weed. What are you doing in your gardens mid-April?
Well, this year, I have to say I'm a little behind schedule. Last year I was really on top of things, and by this time last year I had tomato starts already going in the greenhouse and all of that. But this year I'm a little behind, so I'm still working on weeding and mowing. It's just insane right now. Like you said, everything grows quickly this time of year in Humboldt County. It's warm and it rains periodically, so the plants really like that. But that means that so do the weeds and the grass. So I've been doing a lot of weeding and mowing. I do have a few seedlings in the greenhouse growing right now. Just some sunflowers and some other ornamentals, as well as I have some lettuce and chard and spinach going. I did cheat this year, and I went and I got starts at the garden store or the garden center, which I usually, like Holly said, I usually prefer to grow things starting with seeds, but we've just had a lot going on this year, so got myself some starts early on, like probably a month ago or so, and those plants are looking really good. In my smaller row crop garden, I've got a bunch of brassicas, so broccoli, cabbage, and Romanesco. And I've got 2 garden beds full of potatoes that are looking awesome, and then I've also got some lettuce and other greens, and I overwintered some carrots. And I've also got some spring onions in the garden as well.
Okay. I have to just interrupt here. I never heard the word brassica until I heard you use it when you were talking about broccoli. Is broccoli a brassica, or is...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So different varieties of vegetables are in different families, right? So the brassica family includes broccoli and cabbage and I think cauliflower as well, and others. So it's just a my phone just fell. It's just a category of a kind of plant.
Yeah.
And so in future conversations we might be talking about rotation gardening, and so those are the kinds of terms you learn when you're, or at least that I learned while I was trying to think about rotation gardening, because you wouldn't, for example, want to plant brassicas in the same spot perhaps two seasons in a row, because brassicas, as a general rule, are going to absorb the same kind of nutrient from the soil, and so that nutrient combination will be depleted from the soil. In any ways, I digress. Brassicas, yes.
Well, we can talk more about amending in future conversations also.
Yeah, right, yep. And then we have animal stuff going on. Holly, I think, briefly mentioned that she's got some meat chickens, and she's, of course, got her laying hens that are daily maintenance. I've got meat chickens as well. They're in the brooder. We're going to be getting ready to put them out into a chicken runs. I have these chicken tractors that I like to use in my yard, so we'll be putting those out probably in the next week. Mine are looking feathered out. They're looking healthy. So, yeah, I'm going to get them outside and ranging in the grass. And then, like I said earlier, our rabbit just had babies. So, just making sure she's well taken care of, and those babies are getting fat and healthy. And then I've got a goat that I've just started milking. This is a new experience for me. Hand milking has been an experience. Incorporating that into daily life has been new, but fun and interesting.
How many times a day do you have to milk your goat?
Right now, we're just milking once a day. So our goat, she is a high-producing goat. She has, her genetics are high-producing. And so she came into milk before having her baby. Usually, as any human woman who has had a baby knows, usually your milk doesn't come in until just before you give birth to your child. And so our goat, came into milk like month 2 of her kidding, is what they call it, of her pregnancy, essentially. So she's milking super early, which is crazy. And so we weren't set up with any of the equipment or anything like that to do it. So it's been a challenge, but we'll be getting that equipment here shortly. So, and I believe it's 6 months is how long their pregnancy is, but I'm not the goat expert.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. No, that's someone else in your household.
Usually 7 to 10 months. Gestation 145 to 155 days. So that's what we've got going on.
So that's what's going on. How about a book that would help us in our endeavors? I know you have a great book. What is it? The Backyard Homestead?
Yeah, this is a book that someone gave to me really early on when I was first starting to get really into subsistence gardening. And it is called The Backyard Homestead. Produce all the food you need on just a quarter acre. And really, and it's edited by Carleen Madigan. We'll put something about it in the show notes, so that a link to it. And I just have to say, it's really great for helping to figure out how you can optimize your space. It shows you how you can tuck in garden beds in places and incorporate things. And it doesn't talk about permaculture specifically, but it does talk about how, you can use this area to grow certain things so that you can, feed your chickens, so that your cost of feed is lowered and things like that. So it does talk about how, you can organize and situate your little homestead to support itself in many ways. So that whole idea of subsistence or of sustainability. So yeah, it's a great one. You should check it out. It's inspiring. It's going to tell you, how much food you can grow in your small space, which is often surprising to many people. I mean, Holly, how many eggs a day are you getting out? When your birds are really laying on your, let's call it, it's an oversized lot, right? So it's probably somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an acre, your piece there. How many eggs are you getting a week, do you think?
Well, let's see, a day I'll get 5 to 8, sometimes 10 eggs. I think I got 11 once last week. So, in a week, that's maybe, God, wow. Yeah, that's a lot of eggs. That's 50 eggs if they're laying 7 or 8 eggs a day. So, right? 7 times 7 is 49. Because I know math. So that's a lot of eggs. And we eat probably 4 or 5 eggs a day.
Yeah.
And then I'm cooking or baking. So we go through some, definitely, which is great. And then we have some I can sell if we need to.
And that helps supplement the cost of feed, right? So, and care.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I could definitely sell enough eggs that I wouldn't ever have to worry about feed costs. That would be easy to do with the amount of, and then still have eggs for myself, definitely.
Yeah. So just
right.
this idea of sort of caloric capacity of the space that you're in, and I think it's far less limited than what we assume. How many calories can we produce in a space? Well, if you're talking about 200 dozen eggs a year, like Holly can grow in her space, that's a lot of calories that you can put into your family's food budget, essentially. So that's
definitely without having to worry about industry eggs.
Right. Without participating in that industrial, agricultural, global market, which can be problematic, and we could talk about that in other episodes or conversations. So yeah, Backyard Homestead. Look it up. It's a good book. I recommend it.
So now let's get into plugging ourselves. Mel, you have this great Instagram account, Grossberry Farms. And I love looking through all of the pictures of your gardens and your animals, and it is super inspiring. I have a fun YouTube channel that's Holly Esther, and it shows things like my brooder, my chick brooder. I have a video up there, and my dog circling around and around for a whole minute trying to sit down, and me flossing. No, but there's I'm gonna put a lot more of my homestead videos up there for sure. So
well, and we can plan to in the future post videos of us, butchering our chickens or, harvesting, what do you do? So you grow all these dry beans. Now what do you do? Those kinds of things. We could do videos. Yep.
Well, this has been a really great conversation, Mel, and I'm so glad that we could do this.
Thanks. Well, and I hope that your experience in your small space can help people to realize that, it doesn't take a lot of money. It takes time, and so, well, you can save yourself time by spending money like I did this year buying starts, but you can do this inexpensively. I think there's an interest right now in the world with trying to find ways that we can grow our own food at home in an effort to stay at home and prevent the further spread of this horrible virus. And I hope that you and I can impart some of our experiential knowledge and inspire others to just, even if it's just to grow one thing, grow one head of lettuce, and make that salad and feel how good that feels to go from seed to your plate.
It feels good. It's magic.
Magic gardening.
Magic. I got it in there. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. See you next time.